WOMHub, a boutique Pan-African incubator, has been around for 19 years, running accelerators and investment programs for women in business and startups, particularly in science, technology, engineering, and manufacturing.
When women-led businesses are on the cusp of looking for financing their businesses, we really find that they need to be very, very clear on what type of funding would they need given the stage of business that they're at. And so I think there's quite a big education piece around, not necessarily being pushed either to VC funding or angel investment necessarily, but really thinking about what are my capital needs, and therefore what are the best vehicles to that I could almost match with to make that happen. And so I think there's a very big education component for the entrepreneurs themselves.
These programs have become integral in assisting women better understand their business and financing needs, providing them with the tools to access the right type of funding.
While there is a perception that there just isn't enough money to go around for women entrepreneurs, the problem is really that they don't have the practical know-how in order to access this funding. And this is why organizations like WOMHub play a critical role in getting these women investment ready.
The number one challenge for female founders today still remains access to financing. And so our capital arm is really around thinking about how is it that we meet entrepreneurs where they're at, that we educate both founders and funders around what is required in this space. Certainly, female founders are not looking for handouts, and we're trying to move away from that kind of grant mentality and say, actually, this is about business growth, this is about job creation, this is about revenue generation and real impact in their spaces. And so I think it is around not so much a lack of funding in the system, but how is it that we bridge the gap between matching the needs of founders and funders.
Keshni Mora, an angel investor and the founder of Investable, agrees that there is more of a disconnect in education and understanding than a lack of funding problem.
When I sit down with funders and founders specifically, and I look at what they want to raise for, firstly, many of them don't understand their own financials, how to interpret their financials, how to use it to understand how they should be leveraging different levers in their business to grow the business. If I'm going to give you $1 million and you've never been able to handle $1 million of your own money, or even $100,000 of your own money, how are you going to handle what I'm going to give you?
More catalytic funding is being made available. However, it comes with higher risk for the funder and requires more impact from businesses wanting this money.
On the one side, government's giving grants or companies are giving grants. There is no, what happens to the rest of it? How is it utilized? How is it making an impact versus, oh, this is just free money. So a big mind shift has to happen where people start taking accountability for the money that they're bringing in. I'm going to refer back now to the GIZ where they were very specific about it and they were very clear. This is taxpayers' money going into your pockets to make sure that your businesses grow better. In order to do that, we want to understand how you're going to utilize the money, and we're going to put KPIs in place that show exactly how you've used it over the last year.
Women entrepreneurs may need to put in additional effort to secure the funding they require, effort that will ultimately pay off in the long term. Sumitra Naidu, CGTN, Johannesburg.
Let's delve further into the issue of funding. Now, catalytic funding is a type of investment often from philanthropic, public or development sources. The fund typically works in a blended finance structure where different types of investors pool their resources to achieve shared goals. Now, the primary goal is often to avail capital that will allow for emerging companies to demonstrate their viability. This improves the risk profile of the company for traditional investors, who of course will be approached in the future. Now, catalytic funds accepts a disproportionate level of risk, which means that the investor absorbs the initial losses if the investment underperforms. By doing so, it de-risks opportunities for conventional investors. It also validates new business models and technologies, and it builds a track record for early stage ventures in challenging markets. Now, it can be deployed via various financial instruments, including grants, loans, equity, and also hybrid structures, which are tailored to the specific needs of the project or fund. Now, we're speaking about this because in Africa, women make up more than half of the self-employed population, especially in non-agricultural sectors, yet they still face significant challenges when it comes to accessing financing. Let's delve further into this with Fadila Chumba. She's the CEO at the African Business Angels Network, and she joins us now in Accra. Great to have you on the show with us, Fadila. Now, we're keen to discuss with you because your organization is pretty passionate about mobilizing and also increasing the pool of angel investors who support and fund promising entrepreneurs on the continent. What has been your experience when it comes to female-focused angel networks?
Indeed. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, ABAN today is the largest Pan-African organization of angel investors across the continent. And today, since 2015, we have been able to deploy 23.5%. But before, I would like to answer your question by establishing some facts. Female-led and funded companies are overtrained, underfunded, underrepresented, and these are very clear. And you will agree, and everyone within the ecosystem will agree with me on that. When you look at the whole ecosystem, you will notice that less than 1% of VC funding actually went into women-led and women-funded companies. And you will also note that a lot of grant money, for example, the statistic shows that 52% of female entrepreneurs across the continent would attract grant funding. Right, which is, I would not say, which is quite unfair. Meanwhile, we know that when we invest in women, they actually yield better results. And you will see that I read a report by BCG recently that actually shows that for every single dollar invested, women are able to generate a higher revenue versus the male counterpart. At the same time, when you invest money, and you invest capital or financial or non-financial resources into female-led or female-funded companies, you will see that the female-led will actually have a 10% growth higher than a male-run company.
All right. Now, of course, it's interesting you say that because I also saw somewhere that women entrepreneurs earn 34% lower profits than their male counterparts. What do you think is the reason for this, especially given the fact that we live in changing times where women are supposed to have a bigger part of the pie? Are the shifting trends shaping the landscape today, posing new challenges, or are they providing solutions for women when it comes to access to finance?
I would say that we're seeing more solutions emerging, right, within our ecosystem. And I would also say that it's highly driven by visionaries and bold women who actually created a kind of framework. I'll take an example of Rising Tide Africa, which is the largest angel investor network led by female, who are bringing together the capital and investing most of the time this money into female-led and funded companies across the continent. And you will also see VCs such as Aura was working really hard and deliberately channeling capital towards female-led and female companies. So we need more and more of these vehicle and structure to deliberately look at female-led and funded company as a real opportunity on the continent in, number one, building sustainable businesses and also creating sustainable profit in the long run.
Now, of course, you bring angel investors together. So what is your outlook for funding in female-led startups? Are we going to see female-focused angel funds put together going forward?
Oh, absolutely. It is already happening. I gave an example earlier on Rising Tide, which is the largest network of female angels on the continent. Started in Nigeria. Today, they have expanded into South Africa, and they are opening a special vehicle purpose vehicle in Kigali. You have Ahua Capital, you have She Equity that has been active in the ecosystem, actually deploying real capital into this female founder. So we are expecting to see more and more of these instruments being created in order to support female-led and funded companies. From an angel, from where we sit, we have made it always very clear that it's so important that we deliberately build instruments and tools that will somehow deliberately channel capital towards female-led and funded companies. For example, one of our instruments that we have in-house is called Catalytic Africa. And Catalytic Africa, 2 years ago, deliberately built a pool of capital that then went to market to co-invest with angel investors across the continent into female-led companies. So this is a deliberate action that is designed to channel capital into these companies that are being led and funded by women. But more and more of this can be done. And today we're even increasing that pool, calling on multiple partners, those willing to bring in equity investment, debt, or even grant, and making sure that we can unlock further capital locally. But one thing is important, and it's clear from what we have done so far. Investing and supporting female-led enterprises across the continent starts with angel investors. So we need a bigger pool of female angel investors and male angel investors to start putting even more capital into these companies so that they can build enough traction to attract more and additional VC fundings. So it's so important that this pool of angel investor increases in channeling money into those companies across the continent.